Hello everyone, Kurt Hofer here, and welcome back to another episode from Hofer Labs. This week we're going to be focusing on three plays that I do not necessarily think are supposed to be individual. I think it's supposed to be continual, as well as some of the factors that this might lead to a historical context as far as some of the behaviors that you see within chivalry, within knightly combat, and so on and so forth. This is in regards to the lower lock and some of the positions in which Fiore shows us right here as far as getting people into this position and maintaining them. And I'm also going to be sharing some of my thoughts here in regards to some of the stuff I've learned before within the Marines. As far as when you're talking about controlling somebody, detaining somebody, and so on and so forth here. And that's going to be the look at it here. So with that being the case here, before I give too much of it away, let's get into it. So this week we're going to be continuing on in regards to the third master. And like I've talked about in the very beginning of all this, these three images that I'm going to flash across the screen right here, I don't see them as individual plays. I see them as a continuation. They are points to work to when dealing with someone who's got a dagger in place. And they serve much more to the concept of disarming and how we may get to disarming and controlling mechanisms in there. So I want to make sure you understand, like all three of these positions, they all talk about the lower lock. And they all go off of that position where I've come across and I've put the guy into the lower lock position off of third master. Fiore is very clear about this. And if you're getting to any of these areas, whether it be behind the back or any of those types of things with the third master, you've missed your moment to counter, which will be coming up here in the next week about how we get out of this. So understand third master, it's a fast response. We don't have time to mess around with it. And essentially it is either a way to get the person to the ground, and I think of a way to control and detain them. In the Marine Corps, we utilize a lot of time where we would come down and we'd find ways to control the person to the back as a part of the training we got within the Marine Corps Martial Arts program, which I'm sure other people trained a lot more than I did. But regardless, we're going to be talking about this today. So with this being the case here, third master. Again, we're talking about that Revezzo shot here, and for today we're just going to be talking about here, he's going to make the position here. Maybe he's drawn this way, maybe he's missed the first time, it doesn't matter. But we come into the covering position here on the line, I slipped across, and I've made this position right here. Now, if you remember, we started talking about how I might decide to turn him and go this way, which is going to drive him to the ground. I'm not going to put him to the ground today because you can do this on the ground, no problem. But also, the image shows that you have him up in position where I'm right here. So part of what I think is happening here, if the person off of this position has got this way, maybe in the process, they've dropped the dagger. Okay, so this is the best case scenario. Somehow, some way, I've come down, and in doing so, I put myself right here, and in this position, I can now manipulate the person where I can start turning up the arm into this. And it doesn't take very much here, you can already tell here, I'm just making a slight rotation. This is joint of the elbow manipulation. So on this position, we've covered, I'm coming across here to his face, tracing it back down, and all I'm going to do here is I'm going to push up and over. Now please understand, for a modern context, if you're training this at home or you're training with a friend or in your school, be very careful. This does not take much. This is putting torsion here on the top portion of his shoulder while you're manipulating his the elbow piece. And if I'm behind him, this actually makes it worse because it allows me to contort and then get to this position. Okay, so ultimately, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have him stand right in this position so we can kind of see this from behind. We'll come a little bit closer here. So again, we've covered in like such. Ultimately, I'm down. The idea is to manipulate the elbow, and I want my hands to pass in flight. So I'm going to go back with this. Wrist is controlled. I'm here. I'm going to push behind here to this. Now, mind you, in the picture, it shows me the guy standing right here, which you can see right here. For right now, I'm just wanting you to see where this elbow is and how I might get that into place as I control and manipulate that. Controlling, hands up, and this way over, just rolling over with this. So in that case, being a little bit closer once again, cover comes in the manipulation, I'm here, and then off of this, I trace to see I'm behind him, which allows me that control. So you can already see here with this. If he restrains or tries to fight with this right here, I'm just controlling on the elbow. We don't necessarily need to do that right there, okay? And one more time for the other side, just so we can see that. Part of this, again, means I'm stepping behind him to make it work. Cross, here, and I'm into this position, and I'm just kind of covered down and holding his wrist. Okay? So that right there is when we get into that position. So whether the person has the dagger or not, we're going to be getting into that a little bit later on. But again, first and foremost here, best case scenario, maybe the guy realizes, let's go this, and I'm moving him into what we'll talk about the final position here when it comes into the lower lock. So the next image, which we move into here, which is this one, we can see that the dagger is still in play. Now, I want to be clear about this. It doesn't say this in the manual, but from training that I've had and experience-wise, there's a part of this right here that I think that we may be missing that may or may not actually, that may give a little bit more light to this. Verbal commands. Now you got to remember, in this period of time, in the age of chivalry, in knightly combat, whatever you want to call it, armitsari, taking people as a ransom was a big deal. So I may not want to kill the guy, but I may want to get him into a position where, like, do you yield? Do you yield? And him yielding right there, now I'm getting him to say, yes, I yield. And now I've gotten to the point where I can ransom him, I can do anything else. All of these locks, especially the lower lock specifically, I personally believe is less about destroying the person and more about controlling them. Of course, you can destroy the arm. There's all sorts of things you can do here. But remember, we're talking about controlling them. I might want to do more of them. Maybe I don't want to hurt them. But regardless, again, one of the things that makes sense here is we're talking about how we can use this position here to control, and we can find the dagger position, okay? So in this case right here, he's going to assume the reversal position. He shoots off line here. I come into the blow. This arm, maybe if I get in a little bit close here, I have the bend. It doesn't matter if the arm's like this, and I've moved into third master. From third master, the big thing right here is being able to, once again, create that situation. Now, before I can get him into any form of lock, because if I do this right here, that's all I start with the dagger is at my hips and my legs. And all he has to do is start moving into me. It's a little bit of a prick right there to now shift my direction into getting away from this. Bad space, bad ideas for me. So instead, from here, I recognize the situation. I'm going to come over, which is going to give me access to control the arm. He can try to get out of it, but it's locked in place. And now from here, I can wrench the dagger out. Now remember we talked about before, within the first master structures, it's easier to pull the dagger from the fingertips, pulling out and away, okay? We're doing the same thing here. So, shot comes in, boom, I've moved into the position here, I recognize his dagger is still in place, avvisamento. We've got to recognize that first. Retaining the wrist here, I've gone into third master, I'm going to swoop over top, and from here, I'm going to then be able to control the arm, which allows me to strip this thing out of his hand. Big thing about this is you got to control the hand. If I just come in from here and I leave my hand on the elbow, it's like this, and I start going with the dagger, he can get out of this because there's nothing controlling the arm. I'm going to use dente di cingaro to get underneath this with underneath his arm to make control of this, keep body contact with my leg, which allows me the ability to get in. The lower I am, the more it's my lower back getting it. So all I want to do is I want to stand up there and I want this to brace up against him. My legs here in place here, because if he's falling forward, now he's thinking other things. And I want to strip this dagger out. Of course, I can mangle him or whatever. I can toss it away. I can get this. And now I can start moving into this, into that other control position that we just saw a second ago. So we're going to do this from the other side here again. So pops in. Cover is made. However, this, I make third master. This is covered. I move across. I sweep into this. I'm going to keep control of the arm. By keeping control of the arm here, gives me access. Drop it. Drop it. And now it's a matter of controlling him. Okay? And that right there is just a little bit of role play of giving a command to someone that may have just come at you with a dagger shot. Commanding them, put it down, put it down. And you may have other ways that you can get out of it, okay? So, ultimately, all of this is leading to the last form of the lower lock. And the lower lock, in my opinion, is allowing ourselves to get into the back portion right here where we can hold the hand up, and we're going to allow our hand to kind of put ourselves in a position where I can hold this and control him in any form and fashion that I need to, okay? So first form, to demonstrate this right here, we don't need the dagger for this one, just drop it down for right now. We're gonna be showing here, again, probably a little bit closer, just to kind of get the message across. But as he comes in with this position, again, I'm moving in across, I'm behind, trace the C down to his elbow. I'm pushing the elbow here, and as my hand is pushing, this hand is gonna come up. I'm gonna have his right hand touch inside my left elbow, and I've got a nice little control position right here. I'm gonna reverse this here so you can see, stand up. Now I'm in control of him, move. And I can tell him, come backwards. If he doesn't want to listen to me, I just torque it a little bit right here, move, I said. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Big thing about that is I'm controlling him. This is a means of containing the person's arms. In images of Talhofer, you see something where you see someone that's double locked on there, where he's holding people back in places. This is a very effective hold that allows people to be maintained, controlled, and whatnot. So we're going to go to the other side here. Hopefully this gives, again, so you can kind of see. We're going to go a little bit closer here. Perfect. Shaq comes in here. As he does so, I'm moving into third master, coming down to the elbow. Trace the C, so you can see, once again, I'm pushing here. So I'm going to do here, move this one, good. I'm going to push the elbow. My left hand is going to control this. I'm going to bring his right hand here into the crook of my arm. If I don't like this guy, I push him down and I hold him here. I like Connor. So essentially this allows me to double lock arm into this. If he decides to get feisty with this, I push his knee. There's a lot of controlling here when it comes down to this. The image shows him up with his hand like this, as you can see, and that might just be like, maybe this is a person right here who's like, maybe this is a person that here's getting a little bit feisty. So he starts doing this, or he gets feisty, I drop him down, I give him a smack to the back of the head. Something along those lines. Again, real close here. Now one more time here, face towards the camera. First thing, after I've made this, I'm maintaining the wrist. Dagger's out of play. Moving down as quick as possible. I'm going to move into this. Hands over top of this. If I can grab onto this, great. If not, then I'm going to hold on. I'm going to make sure that my arm is here. I'm going to take his wrist up and over in into my armpit. I'm sorry, into my elbow. And now we have a double arm block here, which allows us to be able to fold in. Stand up. Move. And I can steer him because the pressure is here and he really doesn't want to ruin this. Nope. Okay. So, again, why I say this right here, I put all three of these together, is that they ultimately are, in my eyes, one lesson. Essentially, once I've gotten the guy into the ground like this right here, I can contain him. Are you able to put your hand on the ground?
Yes.
Okay. Take the dagger for a second, please, here. So let's give a full, if this goes back to the horn, right, I put him into the ground. So nice and slow. Cover goes into place here, I shoot across, right? So in this case, I either A, have the ability to do something, he pulls away here, we go to the throw, but we're not talking about that. I'm coming down here, I'm gonna push the elbow, he's gonna go to the ground, just go ahead and go to the ground. And from this position here, if I decide to do this, the dagger's still here in the groin. Something can happen, it's bad things. So instead, I'm going to control it, let go. He drops it, I trace back in here, and I've got him controlled here. Stand up. And I've got control of him in a way that I can maneuver him. He can't strike at me with his other hand here. If he does, I'm just going to torque him. If he gets feisty, kick his leg. I also have back of his head right here. And the reality is, there's other pieces of control I can do. All of his throat matter right here. We'll do one more from the other side. Arm still good?
Yep.
Good. So once again, a little bit closer this way. So here, I'm stepping across, leg behind, bring the arm down. I turn him to the ground. And from this position, big thing right here, I haven't earned it. The dagger's still in play. I can keep him here for someone to come up. I can command it to put things, but if I don't have it, I don't have it. So from here, what I'm going to do is, very simply, drop the knife. I come across here to make sure. I'm sorry, one more time here. So that. I want to control this. Drop the knife. Drop it. Good. I'm maintaining this wrist. Behind. to the elbow, and now I'm here. Grab him by the coif, stand up. He gets feisty in some form or fashion. I just tweak the arm a little bit. I really don't like him. I'm going to pull him by his hair. All sorts of things right here that I can cause some trouble. He can't strike me with the other hand. That's great. If he does, all sorts of pieces right here in which they can cause a good effect on target. Okay. So lots there to look at, lots there to explore. But again, to me, this is a look at how we control somebody who's, you've disarmed them, you've stopped them, and you've got them in a control position. This could be another knight, this could be another man-at-arms, this could be a thug in the street, this could be any matter of consideration. If you don't have rope to bind them on, if you don't have a manacle or something like this right here, you've got a way to control the person and to do the things that are necessary to be able to move them. Personally, I think that's what this section is talking about, which is why I think these three plates right here come right after the one to the ground, because I can control and move in and do all the things that are necessary, which is why it's so important. A little bit longer video here, but we're looking at very close joint manipulation concepts, which feed into Third Master Dagger. So you can see with the video that, again, when I say that this is a continuation, I mean that essentially these three plays, in many ways, to me, off of that one, whether I get my arm down on the person, I then have options to control and change the narrative. Something that consistently goes into my head when I look at Fiore's works here, specifically when it starts off with the Third Master, is that the counter for Third Master, as well as in Fourth Master and Fifth Master and many others, the counter for all the plays essentially is the last play that's drawn in that section. I think this because what you're seeing with Third Master is it's not just one thing. It's that you're trying to control somebody or get them to a position where you can get them into a spot where they are submitting. And like I said before, in the era of like chivalry, did knights kill each other? Of course they did. But the practice of ransoming one another and gathering things was a lot more prevalent. And that's where I look at Third Master and how we get into the lower lock and how we might get to a throw within earlier plays, as a means of being able to achieve exactly that. That basically we're trying to set up a spot where I can control somebody, I can control you, I can move you, I can direct you, and then there's verbal commands that may or may not be in the book here, but that's also because I think it probably would have been more of an expected. Again, we don't necessarily know when it comes down to that. But again, what it feels like to me is this portion right here is much more about controlling the person. Yeah, I can break the arm straight out if I want to. However, everything here feels much more about controlling, constraining, and detaining somebody. And for the practice of arms, that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're working on night combat. We're going to be talking about later on in regards to the counter to Third Master. And I have some things in there as far as that goes as well, because ultimately Third Master and some of the other places where you only see the counter at the very end really to me show that this whole part here, the play from the very beginning of the crossing to the countering, is a space where there's a fight going on. Something's happening, we're shifting, and how many ways it can go. And that's essentially what I think these three plays are doing here is we've gone past the stage of controlling the person, we've gone past the stage of where we've got them into a lower position, and now we're in a place of where we are detaining and retaining that person under our control. Like I said in the video too, Talhofer shows this right here. There's plenty of other ones where they show like double lock arms up on people. This lower lock position behind someone's back is very effective. Modern day military and police force, they detain people behind arms behind their back for a reason, because it's easier to control them. In this case right here, when it comes down to arm placement, it's also the factor of, what happens if you don't have a means of retaining? What happens if you're in a suit of armor? And I know that these can go into that place. It's a little bit more painful because you have armor on, and you're probably going to dislocate or hurt the person, but you're not going to destroy the arm, and therefore other things that go into place. So just thoughts and considerations that I see with this that may glean to a historical concept as far as why we might be seeing this. So that's going to conclude for the video right here. I hope this has been interesting for some people out there. Like I said, I'd love to hear people's thoughts. As I go through this, to me, these are not just one and done plays. Like I've said that I think about 1,000 times now. but they're one and done plays, but they're not one and done plays, but you can move to them so that they become the one and done situation. And that we're kind of getting a gleaning portion right here, because anatomically you're dealing with someone that's not just going to say, yep, I concede. In the academic, okay, we're observing this approach where we're trying to understand what these things are. In a very military or martial concept, no, you're controlling this person because they're not necessarily wanting to give up that position. It could be their life and other things. So again, like I said, that concludes what we got here for this. Please share this with a friend out there. Let me know what your thoughts are. I don't know what people think in regards to these plays when it comes down to the lower lock, or why these are so similar to one another. I'm curious to see what people have to say. Please, like I said, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and love to be able to communicate with my viewers out there. It'd be wonderful. If you're new to the channel, consider liking and subscribing, sharing with a friend. My goal is to grow this channel as much as possible. I'm working very hard to make this as authentic and realistic in regards to what this may be in here. So if it helps people in their practice, or if it gives you perspective, like, hey, maybe I want to try this out in my own time, wonderful. And as always, everybody, please, until I see you, stay safe out there, train well, and fight on. I'll see you all soon.